new DC finest, The Flash, the fastest man dead. Now, of course, they always use this. They use a title and it doesn't actually always relate to the rest of the book. But still, you got here Canaha, Bates, Novick and Giordano. Well, of course, many others are also involved as well. And the stories are from, let's have a look, 1970 to 1974. Now, this copy cost me about £21 and it's priced at $39.99. You can see there the ISBN for the book. So let's just go through it. Now, actually, this book is absolutely huge. It's got about 650 odd pages, maybe even more, 660 odd pages. Wow, lots and lots of great stories. So let's go through it. Basically, this is the Bronze Volume 1 Omnibus. Now, obviously, it's not hardback, it's not an omnibus collection, but it is the equivalent to what would be the Bronze Age Volume 1 Omnibus, as far as I can see. And you've got here, of course, Jay Garrick also turns up. Of course, Superman turns up. And they've got details down the bottom there, which you probably can't see, it's probably cut off. But still, you've got all of the contents as usual, which is great, and there's a lot of issues there. You can, actually, I just turned over. There are lots of issues there. So, tables of contents, and you got there the Flash. Now, I got the proof, you're the Flash, Barry Allen. There's quite a few odd stories where Barry Allen forgets his identity. People obviously discover his identity, etc. Now, this caused some brilliant Gil Kane. Now, unfortunately, there's not a huge amount of Gil Kane, but there's some early Gil Kane now. I just always love his work. So you've got the story there. Obviously, Iris West, etc. They say I'm the Flash, and you can see there, no sad songs for a Scarlet Speedster. And you've got Zatanna there, an absolute great one there. Zatanna, Flash, call it magic, it says there. And onto the Flash Dead. So you can see, obviously, the story of Dead and memory, etc. It sort of fits with the thing. You, of course, got the wonderful JLA there. And there's some actually quite decent ones where there's one with Iris West where she starts saying various things about the JLA, which I think is really quite an interesting storyline. Also, of course, there's the story about Iris West and where she comes from, and, of course, some origin, etc., which is quite nice as well. And on to this one, which is the special 200th issue. Count 200 and die. Again, there seems to be a theme, obviously, of death involved here. You've got him whizzing through. Of course, you've got there the background, Washington, D.C., and that's obviously part of the story. And you've got 200. 200 gets mentioned a lot. And, of course, they did this quite often. You'd have the storyline where you show the picture and then, of course, what actually led up to this later on. And you've got all the various bits of development there. And you've got this woman obviously trying to convince the Flash to do a dirty deed in issue 200, as they do. And then you've got the Fiddler, the Golden Age Flash. And they did this a few times. There are quite a few of these ones where you've got a very short story with another, obviously there's the Flash there. But it's nice to see the Golden Age Flash. And I think it's a pity they didn't do more of these Golden Age stories. Why not? They could have done that, I think, in early ones as well. I remember a lot of these issues. This was when I started to collect Flash, that sort of DC comics, around about 74, 75, that sort of period. And you got here the third race between the world's fastest superheroes. This time there must be a winner. And I remember these ones, these speed ones. They were just great to pick up. And you got here, of course, Yellow Sun, Red Sun, etc. Problems for Superman. Always a guess, that is the problem. When he's flying through space, will there be a yellow sun or red sun? And this one, this one's got a new Kid Flash story as well. So again, you've got another sort of separate story there. But the reason why I mentioned that one, because I've got this, and you can see the size. There's the cover there. So obviously the cover is slightly smaller, only slightly, but it's a bit smaller. And into the actual issue here, and you of course see that obviously it's slightly different from what you think. And there is that. So you can see again, it's obviously the same size. Looks exactly the same size to me. Now, of course, my issue is not a great issue. Very faded, very brown over the years. But you can see the colours obviously much brighter. And again, this is one of the things I like about DC Finest is that you can then read all stories complete. So you come across this, you think, oh, that's a great story. But what happened before? What happened afterwards? Well, with these issues, you can start reading all of the stories in continuous. So you got here Kid Flash, again, another great little story. And again, you got another Flash there. Let me go, Flash, you can't hold me. The Flash's wife is a two-time. I love those. That's a very interesting banner there. And, of course, Superman turning up in the story there at that point. On to the next one. You've got the Black Canary. Oh, that was the one where she starts saying things about various people. She starts telling the truth, sort of saying things out. And, of course, got Superman, everyone there. The Mind Trap. Kid Flash again. So you've got the Kid Flash story. I thoroughly enjoyed Kid Flash stories. They were good. Occasionally, they would sort of course, bring it into the actual main story as well. Sargon the Sorcerer. Now, it's quite interesting. First mix with Flash in issue, obviously 185 there. So Sargon's sort of connected with, I guess, Zatanna, etc., etc. Those sort of storylines. And we've got here, of course, the classic ones there. Elongated Man's Under Siege. I know it doesn't always feature all stories. If it's Kid Flash, it features a story. Or if it's obviously the Golden Age Flash, it features a story. But I guess, and I'm just flicking through this, no, Elongated Man isn't included. Now, I hope that they bring out Elongated Man. That would be brilliant. Of course, he's 25 cents, as it says there. Wrong, I've got to find my real killer, stay dead. Obviously, that's the cover there. And on to the rest of the story here. Batman, I assume that's the Brave and Bold one that's mentioned. So let's just quickly flick back there. Yes, Batman and the Flash. No, he's lying. There's no demon in me, it says. The man who murdered the past, the Viking Prince. Now, on to the next story. And you got here another Kid Flash one. Is this poison legal? They did a lot of these sort of environmental stories and various things like that. And the Flash, that's very odd. The way they did the titles there, Flash. They've done a few of these. Maybe, obviously, that was that time. Flash in Cartoonland, a Flash classic. Now, again, unfortunately, I don't think that's been featured in it. It might be. I don't think it is. Any reprints, past reprints, obviously, of the Golden Age ones. But it does include this, which is great. Of course, you've got that Flash one there, the 100-page one. It would have just included reprints. So you had Quicksilver. I don't remember Quicksilver. Gold, Lead, obviously, the Metal Men. But Johnny Quick, I always love those. Brilliant, they brought those stories out. And then you've also got Jay Garrick there, obviously the Golden Age Flash, and got a lovely story there. And on to another one of a Flash. And this one looks like it's set, obviously, maybe, I don't know where that is. But that one's good. The $1 Million Death Trap. You've got the Mirror Master, of course, there. And oh, Mr. Turtle as well. What is that? We've got another turtle, I should say. The Turtle, the slowest man in the world. Of course, he was the first villain that Flash faced in the Silver Age comics. And then we got this, Green Lantern, co-starring Green Lantern. Now, they didn't do many co-starring with the Green Lantern, which would have been nice. Powering, willpower of everyone, stop the Flash from killing us all. Really? Why couldn't he just do it without that? But there is, of course, Green Lantern appearing in the comic. However, what does happen is that we go back to the thing. Let's just go again to another issue. And of course, as always, when you flick through to try and find it, you got this one, Green Lantern, Masked Criminal. Obviously, you've got again Green Lanterns turning up in this. So you got this story, but the Green Lantern is featured on the front here. You got Solo starring now. Unfortunately, those stories are not included. I guess they will be included at some point in any DC Finest one that comes out, maybe the one that's coming out fairly soon. I don't know. I don't know what years that covers. And again, you've got there the Flash, obviously, Flash in the pan, as it says there, the trickster. On to the final story, and also includes a couple of these things. Flash trivia quiz. Not too many extras, but quite nice to actually have any extras. And of course, you've got, again, the Golden Age Flash, along with the other Flash as well, of course. And then you've got some of the other books there. And you can see there, presenting DC Finest. You've got some of the covers, not many, of course. But as mentioned, it does cover Flash issues 197 to 229. And also Brave and the Bold, 99. And a two-part crossover with A Man of Steel in World's Finest, issue 198 to 199. And that is that. I really, really like this one. I haven't finished all the stories. I've been reading through it, flicking through it. Thoroughly enjoying the ones I have read. So I think that you will, if you loved Flash, if you love that sort of period, 1977, 76, etc., Bronze Age period, I think you'll find this book really, really quite interesting. And you get a lot of pages for your money, I think. Well, I think this DC Finest is basically the Bronze Age Omnibus Volume, Volume 1, that we never got. Now, I've got these omnibus editions here, and you can see here, Volume 3. Now, this one includes the stories 197, 198, and 199 that you can find in the DC Finest. So there's a bit of overlap, but not much. These omnibus editions obviously are hardback and are really excellent, but perhaps we will never get a Bronze Age one. Who knows? So we've got this DC Finest. I think it's great. However, the one thing that the DC Finest does not have, and that is if you go to one of these issues, and I've got this one here, if you just go through it, you can see you've got some letters. You've got a letters section, flashgrams. Now, unfortunately, flashgrams are not included. It would be nice if maybe a couple of the letters pages had been included, but there's nothing, absolutely nothing of those. Also, another thing that's missing, unfortunately, flash facts. Now, I think that an earlier DC Finest did include some of these sort of things, but sadly, this one doesn't seem to. Also, another thing I think that's missing that would be really nice, and that's this, the DC Direct Currents. Really quite interesting information about what was obviously happening at the time. Absolutely great value. I'm really pleased I picked this up. I really truly hope that the DC Finest series continues, and they still haven't put any additional new announcements. All we got so far is at the ends, we got Green Lantern. I think the Green Lantern was the last one, though you've got the Superman one has shifted position to be confirmed. So hopefully that does come out as well. And hopefully we get some announcements. I would love to see that they bring out a lot more of these because, you know, this series should continue because they're great. Absolutely great quality books at a very, very affordable price. And I think very well presented. I love them. So let's hope they long continue. Have you bought this one? Are you going to get this one? Have you got any intention of getting the future ones? There's some interesting ones coming out. There's obviously got a Western one coming out. You've also got a Sergeant Rock one that looks pretty good. There's also a few others that I think, yes, I'll be getting. Now, I haven't bought all of them. There's a few that I've skipped. I don't know. I assume they've been out and they've been out for a while, but I'm just not buying every single one. But certainly this one was on my list definitely to get. So I was really pleased when I saw it finally listed. And I absolutely love this book. That's The Flash, the Fastest Man Dead. Bye.